An arrest affidavit says a woman was shot and killed outside a Dallas PetSmart after getting upset at a woman for not saying thank you.
Court documents say the victim, Cecilia Simpson, was shot several times after the dispute escalated into a parking lot fight.
Many times on this channel, I've explained the process of me picking specific stories to present to you guys out there in the audience. And usually the reason why I select an individual crime, elevate it to the point where I think it should bring attention to you guys out there in the audience, is due to the fact that there are broader policy implications, and this is a negative consequence of said policy implication that is easily digestible and understandable for people out there in the audience, and thus should lead you to the conclusion that we should change said policy so we should not get this outcome. Now, obviously, this isn't 100% rule. In fact, I covered a story out of San Francisco of people being attacked by a squirrel, which, by the way, too few of you watched that video. I'm absolutely disgusted because you refused to watch it, because that was an amazing video. But in this particular case, the scenario that I'm highlighting is out of Dallas, Texas. And what really is at issue here is a petty ego battle, a petty dispute that should have never escalated to the point where it did. It should have never even gotten to the point of a physical altercation. But the parties involved were so trash and so horrible, specifically the shooter, that she decided that this little petty dispute that should have been resolved by her saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize," or "I was being rude," ultimately ended up leading to her firing 3 shots upon somebody who was upset that she didn't get a thank you for holding open the door for her. Again, how these kind of things spiral into these situations so many times is beyond all logic and reason, but that is exactly what happened, allegedly, according to the police in this particular case, and this is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
The family of 41-year-old Cecilia Simpson sent Fox 4 News these photos of the Duncanville mother of 2. Friends and old classmates from Duncanville ISD also mourning the loss. According to an arrest warrant affidavit, Simpson was shot and killed after becoming upset because a woman she held the door open for didn't say thank you. The argument started at the store Five Below Tuesday and then spilled over to the PetSmart in the same South Oak Cliff shopping center off Wheatland Road. Investigators say 22-year-old Kiana Hampton followed Simpson and her daughter into the PetSmart. Employees there asked them to leave.
So for those of you who don't live in the hood, for those of you who are not used to being around ghetto or ratchet people, already the premise that has been laid out by this local Dallas affiliate is ridiculous and absurd. The idea that, first of all, if a stranger holds open the door for you while you're exiting or entering a store and you wouldn't say thank you is beyond what you consider to be reasonable in a civilized society. But then for the person to make a comment about it, to say, hey, that's kind of rude, or you could say thank you, and that ultimately end up leading to a situation where it escalates into a fight where you decide that you want to attack this individual, and then ultimately you take that person's life, who again granted you a courtesy, held open a door for you, is again just madness in every possible level. But that's exactly what happened here. And I understand, and I just want to point out that Simpson, age 41, was upset at the slight, at the disrespect that she received from this younger woman, the alleged suspect in this particular case, and she might have said something that technically started this whole altercation. And I get that, and I understand that feeling, but obviously that doesn't justify her murder. But that being said, it's really important for people to realize that ego battles are often incredibly stupid. They often escalate and get out of hand, and unfortunately they have deadly consequences. So while I'm not blaming Simpson for her own murder, because obviously this was wholly unjustified, I do want to say for you guys out there in the audience, just avoid these kind of situations. If somebody doesn't say thank you, it is not worth you getting your digs in, because ultimately these kind of things can end up escalating to the point where, again, they get far beyond what you imagine. Like, I'm assuming that Simpson just wanted to stick it to her a little bit by saying that you should have said thank you, but assumed that she was going to move on with the rest of her life, not realizing that this woman would follow her into another store and ultimately end up killing her over the fact fact that she noticed that she has no manners, that she doesn't belong in civilized society, which, by the way, was proven to be true by this other woman's action.
The screaming first caught my attention.
Fox 4 spoke to a 27-year-old ER nurse who walked out of the PetSmart as the two women were arguing in the parking lot.
The lady who was the shooter was still instigating, like, I guess, an argument or a fight or something. But the mom and daughter tried to, like, get in the car and, like, de-escalate the situation. But the lady wasn't having it.
So the local news media ends up interviewing a witness, somebody who works as an ER nurse, and I don't know if this woman is Latina or white. I can't really tell just by looking at her, but obviously this is like a sensible, normal person that walks out of the PetSmart and sees this situation escalating. You could actually hear the trepidation in her voice as she's recounting these events, and this is because even though she's an ER nurse, even though she's somebody who witnesses the horrors that are typically the result of these stupid ego battles or these ridiculously ratchet and ghetto situations, seeing it up close and personal is obviously incredibly off-putting for her, but she gives us some insight into how this all went down, and essentially you had this woman follow her into the store. We're talking about Hampton, the alleged suspect, following Simpson, the alleged victim, and she's screaming at her all over again the fact that Simpson was upset that she didn't say thank you. Again, totally reasonable if you're ghetto, have no morals, are incredibly stupid and ridiculous and absurd, but for regular ordinary people, absolutely crazy behavior, absolutely mad in every possible way. But she describes Simpson, who got into the vehicle with her daughter and ultimately was trying to flee. She was trying to leave the situation, trying to escape, because obviously she didn't want to have this ratchet hood moment. Yes, she wanted to give her 2 cents when she held the door open for Kiana Hampton, but obviously she was not willing to fight over it. She was not willing to come to blows over it, but Kiana kept escalating. She kept getting more ridiculous. She kept getting more insane. She essentially baited this encounter, and ultimately it ended up leading to a 41-year-old woman being shot 3 times, dying in the parking lot. And fortunately for her, there was an ER nurse nearby, but unfortunately for her, it appears the ER nurse could not do anything in order to save her.
According to the affidavit, Hampton later confirmed to detectives she engaged in the verbal dispute, entering the PetSmart twice and continuing the argument, throwing the drink bottle at Simpson's car when she was about to leave, and engaging in a physical altercation with her. That's when police say Hampton pulled out a gun and shot Simpson 3 times.
Honestly, death penalty. Death penalty for this woman. Kiana Hampton, you are unfit for society. The fact that you admitted to the police that you were having a couple of drinks, you got into this altercation, you entered this PetSmart 2 different times in order to continue this verbal altercation. Then when this woman decided that she was going to leave with her daughter in the car, you threw a bottle at her. Then she gets out of the car. You get into the physical fight that you asked for. Then you pull out a gun and shoot her 3 times. No way. Look, I'm not sorry to say this. We do not need Kiana Hamptons nearby. We do not need her in our society. We do not need her living off the taxpayer while she's in prison. We need her to face her maker. We need her to pay the ultimate price for this, because this is ridiculous. You want to talk about serious ongoing threats to society? Because, you know, occasionally when there's a situation where like a woman is abused by her spouse for years and years and years, and then she snaps and kills said spouse, people make the argument that that is an unusual scenario that is unlikely to occur again, and therefore we should give this person a lighter sentence because obviously it's like battered wife syndrome or something of the sort. And again, those circumstances are unlikely to play out another time. But this particular set of circumstances, somebody holding the door open for you, you not saying thank you to that person, then that person saying, hey, you could at least say thank you, leading to a murder. This is something that happens each and every day. This is something that's super common, and obviously Kiana Hampton has shown herself to be someone who can't let anything go, who is willing to escalate and escalate and escalate to the point where she's following this woman to another store, where she's trying to assault this woman, where she throws something at her vehicle, gets into a physical altercation, maybe she was losing that physical altercation, and decides that she's gonna take somebody's life. And by the way, again, I will just point out, most people who are responsible with the firearm do not pursue altercations because they understand to a certain extent that that could lead to a deadly force altercation. So they try to hang back, be more reserved, be more relaxed. But this scenario, it's obviously being pursued by Kiana Hampton if the charges are believed to be true, if the witness and police accounts are believed to be true. And you just can't have this kind of person in society so quick to escalate repeatedly to the point where she got into a deadly force encounter. Again, a mother, somebody who is friends to other people, somebody who is courteous enough to open the door for somebody entering or exiting a particular store, was murdered in a parking lot because Kiana Hampton didn't like that she was called out for not being raised right. So she decided to prove that she was every bit as ghetto and trash as was presumed when she didn't say thank you by murdering her over this. She took her life over this encounter, and the idea that this should not be a capital murder is insane.
Multiple nurses rushed to perform CPR. Simpson's daughter by her mom's side, while also on the phone with 911.
If I could just hug that daughter, like, I just feel so bad for her, and I just want her to know that I did everything I could. Those other people did everything they could.
Again, that is just gut-wrenching right there. Here you have the ER nurse on the scene, the sensible white and or Hispanic lady that's watching all of this chaos go down, and she tries to save this woman. She tried her best to help her. Apparently, there were other nurses in and around the area, coincidentally, that were trying to assist, trying to save this woman's life, and all she can think about after watching this absolute ghetto catastrophe unfold in front of her face is that she wants to hug the victim's daughter. She just wants to hold her and say that she's sorry. She tried her best. And again, it's absolutely heartbreaking. But this is the reality that a lot of people live in the United States of America, because there are these uncivilized, quick to anger, absolutely stupid individuals all across the nation. And it happens to be a black woman in this particular case. But make no mistake about it, I've seen these type of ego battles escalate to the point where somebody gets hurt or somebody dies far beyond what was intended. And this is just the reality that sometimes you gotta let little slights go. You gotta let road rage go. You gotta let all these kind of petty things that people get worked up over go, because in reality, the consequences of getting your 2 cents in when somebody is an absolute low IQ, deranged individual could be as high as your life.
Now, the suspect, Hampton, remains here at the Dallas County Jail. She does face a murder charge. Yesterday, police say the suspect did take off in her own vehicle. She was later arrested. Surveillance video from that shopping center captured the shooting itself and also the suspect's license plate.
So, of course, the woman ends up fleeing the scene of the crime, but she's caught on surveillance video. They had her plate. They were able to pull her over. They were able to make the arrest. And it's a good thing that that was able to occur, because obviously we cannot have Kiana Hampton out in the streets when she is this dangerous and this violent of a person. And don't think that I noticed that some of you preverts out there in the audience are going to say that Peyton Yeager is attractive, that she's hot. I actually like her because her brother Frank Yeager is Gray Fox, and obviously Gray Fox, what happened to him, totally unjustified. But you know what? We will save that for another video. We're going to save that for a little bit later, because that is an important and tragic story, but it shouldn't undercut this tragic story out of the city of Dallas. But of course, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about an ego battle spiraling out of control. Till next time.